Okay, by now you're wondering, where the hell's the episode, Tucker? Well, as you'll hear in the beginning of this episode, should have been an easy thing for me to do. I'd gotten off work early, I was going to have a short work week, and a long weekend. Well, what I didn't realize when I started recording this was that I wasn't going to have quite the week I thought. Because it turned out that was the only day I got off early, and the rest of the week I was putting in 12-hour days. Which made it impossible for me to finish recording, because, you put in 12 hours, all you want to do is sleep, and then when you wake up, it is time to go to work. So, that's why it has been delayed. You will get your regular episode on Sunday, which will be a news episode, and I have finished with this section, so you'll get a nice hour-long episode of the Ethiopian Apocrypha to listen to if you enjoy torturing yourself, which apparently I do because I keep reading this damn thing. But we're getting close to the end, folks. And then we get to the Pseudepigraphica and things like the Nag Hammadi Library and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Just a note of caution. Well, not caution, but a joyful note for all of you. We will be skipping things that are just like the inventory scrolls that don't actually have any real content to them, because who the fuck cares how many copper bars or whatever Temple had? It's not terribly interesting, so we'll skip those. Alright, now on to the episode. Slight change of plans, folks.
And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man.
That's right.
Of the seed of man.
The word seed is sperm, and sperm comes through having sex.
It's shut out of your father's rod,
right.
Put it in layman terms, in his penis.
That's right.
That means a man put his penis in a woman and bust off in it.
Then the angel said to him, "Take out the entrails of this fish, and lay up his heart and his gall and his liver for thee, for these are necessary for useful medicines."
The rest of the chapters of the book of Esther,
Go ahead.
which are found neither in the Hebrew nor in the Chaldee.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, not far from the redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is busy giving himself a bath on top of my record player, and Ash is curled up asleep in my room. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cat. Get over it. This is an Ethiopian Apocrypha episode where I read a chapter or two from the Ethiopian Apocrypha. Next episode will be a news episode, and this episode was supposed to include Skullbeard, but unfortunately our schedules just did not work out for us to be able to record this. Skullbeard has changed shifts at his job, which wouldn't really be a problem, but this week it happened to be simply because of the fact that a friend of mine had she had a pretty tragic incident with her cat, and I had to provide emotional support to her. Fortunately, her cat is still alive, but only because of modern veterinary medicine. She came home from work and was fiddle-farting around the house and heard the cat holler, and she ran to find him, and he was crumpled up on the floor in the hallway of the house and, was not responsive, so she bundled him off to the vet, and the vet, looked at the cat and immediately stuck the cat in an oxygen tent, and, they did x-rays and other things, and it turned out that the cat's lungs were filled with fluid. They weren't sure what all was wrong with the cat, and as much as I may love Fuzznuts and Ash, she loves her cats far more than I do, so she was really, really broken up by this. And it was touch and go for a couple of days. The cat had, she thinks the cat may be suffering from heart failure. It is, last I heard, still around. If something had happened to the cat, she would have messaged me. But the cat is back home and doing slightly better. I guess the lungs have been cleared out, but the cat has a blood clot, they believe, causing a circulation problem in its foot, one of its feet, and it can't move the foot at all. So she's having to basically carry the cat, to the food bowl, to the litter box, to wherever. So she's been in pretty rough shape. So, she puts up with my shit when I have problems, so at least I can do is return the favor and be there to, when she needs somebody ear to cheer on or chew on. So because of that, the time Skullbeard was available, I was not. I stayed up close to 24 hours helping her with her emotional issues on that. And, so when Skullbeard was like, hey, I can record now, I'm like, dude, I haven't had any sleep. I'm sorry. I got to sleep. So that's why he is not joining us this time. Hopefully he will be available for the next chunk of this. Any other fun stuff? Well, I will say one thing. It looks to be a slow week at work. So, I was getting a paycheck. I know we're only doing 4 days this week, and we got to go home an hour early today, so, we'll see what happens. As of right now, there is, unless we get a delivery of meat in, there's not going to be anything for me to do when I get there tonight, so we'll see how it goes. And it being the first of the month, I do want to thank all the Patreon supporters who support the podcast, because it's times like this when I really appreciate the extra money that all of you have been contributing. So, you do help keep the show on the web. We're not really on the air, and there's no radio component to this. Anything else that I can think of as far as news around this area? Since it's the topic everybody's gabbing about, I will briefly mention it. The Kavanaugh hearings. No, I did not watch Dr. Ford testify, nor did I watch Judge Kavanaugh testify. I did not need to see Dr. Ford. There's few things in this world more painful than seeing someone expose themselves like she was forced to do in front of a group of uncaring and unsympathetic assholes. And, Kavanaugh, I knew kind of what he was going to do. I did not know he was going to be as bad as he evidently turned out to be. So, and we will see what happens. One hopes that he doesn't get his appointment. But, Republicans really want him in because, A, he supports, blocking any attempts to prosecute president, and B, because they expect there's case coming before the courts which could have an impact on how presidential pardons are handled. And naturally, they want somebody in their pocket who will rule the way they want them to, which Kavanaugh almost assuredly will do. I think, however, that is it. So let's just get to this Apocrypha stuff. And as I said, it's getting easier since we've started translating it. And next the next book will be even better. Because we'll start from the beginning with it all being translated into more modern English. Oh, I know one thing. It's not relevant. It's not in this book, but it was in the previous book. Let me pull this up and find it so I can be precise about it. And while I was looking it up, Fat Ash woke up and demanded attention, so I picked him up and brought him out here, and he's being as big a butt as Fuzz-Nuts can be. Fuzz-Nuts is not happy. But Ash is... If I can get him to settle down and just pick a spot other than the keyboard or the mouse, we'll be alright. Yes, Fuzz-Nuts. Ash, you want to say hello to everybody? Don't walk on the keyboard, buddy. Don't walk on the keyboard. You don't want to say hi? Sure, when I'm recording, you don't want to talk. But when I'm not recording, you talk constantly. My step-niece really loves Siamese cats, so I tried to get a video to send to him the other day of him talking, because he has such an unusual meow. And naturally, he wouldn't say a word. Contrarian, because you're a cat. Sure. Okay, so anyways, hope we can manage this. If I can just get him to pick a spot. So, Twitter user by the name of Persian Rose posted this image of a bas-relief, and I'm like, I've seen that before, and I know where I've seen it, but I can't remember the context. It was mentioned in T.W. Doan's Bible Myths and Their Parallels in Other Religions, and I know I looked up this particular image and posted it, but I can't find the show notes of the episode where I did that, and I'm not going to dig through all the show notes to find them. So anyways, I replied to her tweet with something, there's a weird distortion of this that winds up in the Bible. Well, here, let me read her thing first. Behistun inscription of Darius the Great, Kermanshah, #Iran. You can see a false pretender under the feet of Darius. The story goes that after the death of Cambyses, son of Cyrus the Great, a Median Magi ascended the throne by claiming to be Cambyses' younger brother. And to that, I replied, something, there's a weird distortion of this that winds up in the Bible. I know that it's talked about in T.W. Doan's Bible Myths and Their Parallels in Other Religions, but I don't have time to dig through everything to find the specifics. To which she replies, laughing my ass off, it is in the book of Ezra. Some scholars think Bardia was Artaxerxes. The odds are not in favor of that opinion. Artaxerxes is another name for Xerxes, I believe. But anyways, here's my response. Thank you. I have been toiling my way through some books in the Ethiopian Apocrypha, translated only into the Rastafarian patois, and a name similar to Artaxerxes has come up, and I couldn't figure out who that might have been. Now I know. She responds, there are 3 of them, all Achaemenid Persian kings. They were Jewish-friendly, so they have been mentioned in the Old Testament. I replied, yes, it's been kind of hard to follow. One minute they're talking about something that might have happened in 100 BCE. The next it's something that might have happened in 900 BCE. And it's all jumbled in this weird mess. Fun fact, she replies. At one point, Muslims from Mecca were refugees at the court of Christian Ethiopian king. He refused to return them to the pagans to barbecue their ass after he heard the passage of Quran about Jesus and Mary. And I pointed her to the episode of Living with the Gods, which talked about how much cred the Ethiopian church has in Africa, which she liked. So there, that's probably who they were, one of the people that they were talking about in the last book that Skullbeard and I couldn't figure out who the fuck that person was. Alrighty. And if Ash will let me, he's sitting directly under the microphone. I don't know if you can hear him purr or not. He's a loud purr, unlike Fuzznuts. We will get started on this stuff, because I know you're just chomping at the bit to hear rambling incomprehensibility. For our Jehovah who created you and kept you up till today, yet you the nobles and the kings don't go upon Satan's path. Live in the law and command of Jehovah who rule all, yet don't go upon Satan's path. As upon the time Israel children came toward Amalek, that them might inherit Cathiawan and Fierziwan country, Sephor child Balak and Beliam, whom thou cursed are cursed, and him whom thou blessed, blessed. Don't go upon Satan road, for him have said, and me will give thee much silver and gold that honor thee, that thou might curse for me, and having cursed, that thou might destroy for me. So God is basically just hiring a bunch of mercenaries, rather than doing his own dirty work, which is kind of unusual if you think about it. God tends to like doing his own killing. But anyways. And for Bethlehem have come, making him sorcery reward a morale. And for Sephor child Balak have shown him the place where Israel children camped. For him have done him pessimism, and for him have sacrificed him sacrifice, and for him have slaughtered from him fattened cows and sheeps, and for him have loved that him might curse and destroy Israel's children. Him returned a curse toward a bless, yet but as Jehovah didn't love that him might curse them by him word, don't go upon Satan's road. I just don't like that. Now I've got that stupid Copperhead Road song stuck in my head. You could smell the whiskey burning down on Copperhead Road. Alcohol doesn't have an odor when it burns, asshole. Especially not high-proof alcohol, which apparently that would have to be to cause a fatal car fire. Anyways, as thou art the kindred that Jehovah chose, as thou art Jehovah lodging that shall come from heaven, make persons be cursed who curse thee, I, and make persons who bless thee, I, be blessed, him said. So if somebody curses you, I'm going to curse them, and if they bless you, I'm going to bless them. Upon the time him blessed them before him, after this Sephor child Balak were sad. Really? We're sad. How terrible. And him totally vexed and commanded that him might curse them. For the kindred that Jehovah blessed have come forward. For the kindred that Jehovah blessed have come toward this country. And Balaam told him, me won't curse Israel, whom Jehovah blessed. And Sephor child Balak told Balaam, as for me had loved that thou might curse for me, thou blessed them before me, but thou didn't curse them. If thou had cursed them for me, and told me, give me as for me would have given thee a house full of silver and gold, but thou totally blessed them, and thou didn't do a goodly thing for me, and me won't do a goodly thing for thee. Okay, so whoever this asshole is, C4 child, blocks, it's like, look, you didn't curse these assholes. If you had, I'd have given you lots of money. But since you like them, fuck you. Balaam said, what Jehovah told me speak with me tongue, me will speak it. Yet as for me cyan dare for ignore Jehovah thing. Damn if I didn't. We did figure out what cyan was. I think it's like, don't dare. Lest me curse a blessed kindred, as Jehovah shall vex upon me if me love money. As for me don't love money more than me soul. So, what this guy is saying is, yeah, if I loved money more than my life, I'd totally do what you said, but because I like my life more than I like money, or as Frito said in Idiocracy, I like money. As Jehovah have told them, Father Jacob, make persons who bless thee I be blessed, and make persons who curse thee I be cursed, lest me curse blessed Jacob. As for me don't love money more than me soul, he said again. And as Jehovah have told him who bless thee I are blessed, and a person who curse thee I unjustly are cursed. But you can justly curse them, and you're all right. Accomplish thy path and thy work, that Jehovah might love thee. And don't be like unto former persons who saddened Jehovah in them sin, and whom him neglected. And there are them whom him destroyed in downstruction water. Obviously talking about the flood. And there are them whom him destroyed by them haters' hands. That could be lots of people in the Bible. There are them whom him destroyed by them enemies' hands. Again, lots of them in the Bible. Bringing enemies who were evil persons who firmed up tribulation upon them and captured them lords with them priests and them prophets. Well, that narrows it down to like 90% of the people in the fucking Bible. And them delivered them toward the foreign country, them don't know. Them totally captured them. And them plundered them livestocks upon them and destroyed them country. Appears to be talking about the Babylonian captivity. But I don't know for sure. For them have demolished the honored country, Jerusalem, forces and ramparts. And them made Jerusalem like unto a field. And the priests were captured, and the law were demolished, and warriors fought in war for ill. I have no idea what that word means. And widows were captured, as them have been captured. Them wept for them raw selves, yet them didn't weep for them husbands who were dead. So, it's kind of understandable. I mean, if you're a woman and you're captured in this time period, you're almost certainly going to get raped or murdered, if not both. So, yeah, I can see why you'd weep about that. And the children wept. Again, if you were a child and you were female, you were certainly going to get raped. Probably not murdered, but definitely raped. And if you were male, you might get raped, and you were almost certainly going to get murdered. You know, that because they wanted to, make sure they'll have no heirs to seek vengeance upon them. And elders shamed. Oh, nice. They don't kill the old people. And them weren't nice for neither a gray-haired person nor an elder. Wow. So they're making a distinction between people who have gray hair and people who are old. Interesting. Them destroyed all them found in the country. Well, obviously not, because somebody was left to tell the tale. Yet them weren't nice for beauties, nor for them in law, as Jehovah have vexed upon him kindreds upon the time him love that him might beforehand destroy him lodge in the temple, them captured and took them toward the country them don't know, and toward peoples. I'm not even going to try to interpret that. I'm too tired. As them sadden them Creator every time, because this thing upon the time Jehovah neglected Israel children, Jehovah made Jerusalem for be plowed like unto a field. So it's saying God neglected Jerusalem. Not God punished Jerusalem. Not God, exercised vengeance upon Jerusalem or, placed his wrath upon Jerusalem. He just neglected it. I got other shit to do. I'm gonna go watch these ladies undress. Kind of interesting. Alright. For him are nice for them because them fathers, but him didn't destroy them at one time, as him loved them fathers Isaac and Abraham, and Jacob, who reigned for true and lived firmed up in straight law before the Creator. It are because them fathers kindness, yet it aren't because them raw selves kindness that him forgive them. So, it's not, God doesn't forgive them because of what they did, he forgives them because of what their ancestors did. How nice of him. And him appointed them upon honors that were twofold, and them found two kingdoms, upon earth and in heaven. And you, the kings and the nobles who live in this passing world, like unto your fathers who live firmed up in work that are due, and who were preceding you, likewise inherited the kingdom of heaven, and like unto them names were beautiful for a child, children, think of them. Well, what if we don't want them? And thou straighten up thy work, that him might straighten up thy kingdom for thee. Yeah, so, if you don't do things right, you're gonna go to heaven and find it all cluttered, because God just can't be bothered to, vacuum or some shit. Who knew you had to vacuum clouds? And that thy name might be called in goodly invocation, like unto the kind kings who were preceding thee, who served Jehovah, and the beautiful lifestyle. Yeah. Think of Jehovah's slave Moses, who wasn't annoyed when him kept around this kindred in him, humbleness in him, prayer, and whom not even one person destroyed. And him begged toward Jehovah in his innocence for his sister and brother, who backbit him, and loved that Jehovah might destroy them, while he said, as they have wronged thee, O Lord, pardon and don't neglect thy kindreds. And he atoned their sin for them. Yet he thought of Jehovah's servant, Moses, who weren't annoyed. That kind of makes sense, but not really. For a man have wronged thee, and forgive me thy slave, who am a sinner. For thou art merciful, and for thou art a pardoner, and forgive them their sin. And Moses likewise atoned their sin for his sister and brother who backbit him. And because of this thing, he was called innocent. I'm not about to dig through Exodus to find out exactly what this is referencing. But it's certainly at least quoted in this, or paraphrased in the style, I should say. It certainly seems to prefigure Jebus, being the one to make the sacrifice to absolve others. And Jehovah totally loved him more than all the priest's children who were his brethren. For him appointed the priest, and Jehovah made him like unto his Ra's self alongside them. But he also sank beneath Earth Quarry children who challenged. He lowered them towards Sheol with their livestock and their tents when they said, we are there in flesh and soul, as him creator have loved him, and as him didn't depart from him command, all the word he spoke would be done for him, like unto Jehovah's word. That's obviously talking about the group of people who got pissy because, they'd been wandering around the desert for decades on a trip that really should have only taken a week. And rather than God saying, you're right, let's get you guys to where you're supposed to go, he just opens up the ground and swallows them all. That is clearly what that is about. And unless thou demolish Jehovah's command, likewise Jehovah will do thy accord for thee, and will love thy thing for thee, and he will keep thy kingdom for thee. I'm not trying to translate that into less gibberish. I'm just not going to do it. And Asaph and Korah children who departed from Moses' command grumbled upon him because he told them, straighten up your reasonings for be ruled for Jehovah. They grumbled, saying, how about we aren't Lewi children who work the priesthood, work in tent that were special? So it's an argument for, hey, why don't we treat everybody equally? And apparently God doesn't like that. They went and smoked up incense, seasoned them censers that them might smoke up. Oh, man. Cheech and Chong, baby. But Jehovah didn't accept their plea, and they were burnt by the fire in the censers, and they melted like unto the wax that fire melt, and not even one person remained from them, as him have said, them censers were honored by their bodies being burnt. Apart from the censers that entered toward Jehovah's lodging for Jehovah command, neither them clothes nor them bones remained. And I don't know about you, but that reminded me of the whole face melting scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. All right. Because this thing, Jehovah's told Aaron and Moses, gather them censers toward the tent and make it be an instrument for our lodging, wherefore I, man, prepared all I getting from outside up to within. And him prepared the honored tent instruments, and him prepared the rings and the joiners. Caribiel, picture C. That's just weird. I have no idea what Caribiel picturing the sea could possibly mean. Him worked the cups, the curtains, the tent area grounds for the mobilization, the altar and the jugs whereby they sacrifice in the tent that were special. Him worked the cups. You have to wonder if that's not the old ball in the cup game or trick. The curtains. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. The tent area grounds. Does that mean somebody's going around asking for offerings? The altar. Okay. And the jugs. Well, let's just leave that reference alone. I think we all know what jugs could possibly mean. They sacrificed the sacrifice that they sacrificed by their accord, in accordance with regulations by the Redundancy Department of Redundancy. Yeah. The sacrifice whereby welfare are made, the sacrifice whereby he atones sin, and the vow sacrifice, and the morning and the evening sacrifice. In the morning, in the evening, ain't we got sacrifice? Sorry. All that him commanded for Moses, he commanded those in the tent that were special. I'm not touching that they might work in she. Oh boy, I'm not touching that one either. Get me in a lot of trouble. They didn't scorn being ruled for their Creator, Jehovah, that his name might be praised by them in the law, lodging tent of them as their Creator, Jehovah, who gave them a promise that he might give them fathers' inheritance that produce honey and milk that him swore for Abraham. Them didn't scorn being ruled for them Creator Jehovah, who swore for Isaac and firmed up him worship for Jacob, and who firmed up for Aaron and Moses the tent where him worship are kept, and who firmed up him worship for both Elias and Samuel in the temple and tent that Solomon worked up till it became Jehovah's lodging in Jerusalem, and up till Jehovah named lodging became Jehovah lodging that honored Israel. That makes no sense. For she are a supplication, and for she are a sin atonement, where it are overturned for them who live in innocence, and for the priests. And for she are a place for persons who do him accord, where him will hear them please. And Jehovah law construction that honored Israel, for she are where sacrifice are sacrifice, and where incense are smoked up, that Jehovah who honored Israel to be in goodly fragrance. And him would speak being upon the joiner, where him forgive in the tent that were special. Jehovah light would be revealed for Jacob children, whom him chose, and for friends who live firmed up in him law and him command. But persons who ignore Jehovah law will be like unto Korah children, whom earth sank, and likewise sinner persons have, that them might enter toward Gehenna, that have no exits up till eternity. You who didn't keep the law him commanded you intent, woe for you, Israel nobles, who also didn't do him accord. Yet you did your wrath selves accord, and this are being arrogant and pride, greed and adultery, drink and being drunk and swearing and lie. And because this thing I anger, like unto chaff are burnt before a fire, and like unto fire burn the mountain, and like unto a whirlwind spill the crushed chaff from earth and scatter it toward heaven, lest it trace be found in its place, I, anger, will destroy you like unto that. Jehovah, who honored Israel, said, I, man, shall likewise destroy all persons who work sin and think of Jehovah, who rule all and for whom nothing fail. Him love persons who love him. And for persons who live firmed up in him command, him will atone them iniquity and them sin for him. Don't be dull and stringy of heart by not believing, and make your reasoning straight for be ruled for Jehovah. And believe in him that you might firm up your bodies. And I, man, shall save you from your enemy hand in your tribulation day. And in your plea time, I, man, tell you, check, I, man, am there with you in support. I, man, shall save you from your enemy hand, as you have believed in I, and as you have done, I command, and as you didn't depart from I law, and as you have loved what I, man, love. Jehovah, who rule all, said, I, man, won't neglect you upon your tribulation day. Him love them who love him. For him are a partner, and for him are nice, and him keep persons who keep him law like unto a trust money. Him returned him anger for them many times, because him were who know them that are flesh and blood, as him are a partner. Him didn't destroy all in him chastisement, and upon the time them souls were separated from them flesh, them will return toward them earthliness. That almost sounds like it's talking about reincarnation. Strange. As him have created them, bringing from not living toward living, them won't know the place where them live up till Jehovah love him that might bring them from not living toward living. Again, him separated them souls from them flesh, and earth nature return toward it earthliness. It really does sound like reincarnation. Unless it's trying to say that, they will raise up your soul, but not your body. Your body will be allowed to decay. And again, him accord shall bring them from not living toward living. But Sarusadan, who denied Jehovah, multiplied, being arrogant before Jehovah, him made him rise self-lofty up till the day that him loved upon the time him quit him. And I think that's supposed to be whomever I was talking about earlier. From the tweet from Persian Rose. And me era became like unto heaven era, and me are who send forth son, and me won't dead up till eternity, him said. And before him fall shed speaking this thing, the angel of death, whose name are called Thelemikios, lit and struck him heart, him dead in that Iowa. As him didn't praise him creator, him were separated from him beautiful lifestyle, and him perished arising from him arrogance, abundance, and him work evil. But when the Caladan's king army had camped in the city, and the country squares loving for fight him, upon the time him dead, them proceeded and destroyed him country, them plundered all him livestock, and them didn't preserve an elder who near and sight up ramparts. So this sounds like they're saying that, well, the king had all these mercenaries, and when the king died, the mercenaries said, fuck it, he's dead, we're trashing the dump. Them plundered all him money, and them took him tiny money, and them burned him country in fire and returned toward them country. But these 5 Maccabees children who believed gave them bodies for death, refusing for eat the sacrifice sacrificed for idols. For them have known that pretending with Jehovah surpass from pretending with persons, and Jehovah anger from the king anger. I don't know. That can't be the 7 sons, so I don't know who the fuck this is. Having known that this world will totally pass, and that the nice-ites won't live firmed up forever, them gave them bodies for fire, that them might be saved from fire in heaven. And as them have known that being made nice in garden one day are better than living in many eras in this world, and that finding thy pardon one Iowa Lord are better than many eras, them gave them bodies for fire. What are all era? Like unto a shadow, like unto passing wax melt and perish upon a fire edge. Art it like unto that? But thou, Lord, live forever, and thy era aren't fulfilled, and thy name invocation are for a children. And Maccabees' children thought that it seemed all this, refusing for eat a disgusting sacrifice, them chose believing in Jehovah. Knowing that them will arise with persons who dead, and meaning, because Jehovah, knowing that judgment shall be judged after resurrection of counsel, because this thing them gave them bodies for martyrdom. You persons who don't know nor believe, persons who dead rising, knowing that the life for them find later will surpass from this them passing earthly life for arising from these 5 Maccabees children who gave them bodies together for the death, and whose appearance were handsome. After this, them knew resurrection. Oh, man. Because them believed in him, knowing that all shall pass, and because them didn't bow for idols, because them didn't eat a disgusting sacrifice that don't give support, them gave them bodies for death, that them might find thanks from Jehovah. For because this thing, knowing that him will make them nice in flesh and soul in later era, them didn't know this world flavor and death, tribulation, a serious thing for them who have child and why for and knowing that resurrection can be made in flesh and soul upon the day of Advent, them gave them bodies for death. And knowing that persons who kept Jehovah law with the nobles and the kings who believed in Jehovah word and were nice. Well, that's one optimistic thing I actually kind of said there. Shall live reigning for a children, many eras in kingdom of heaven, where are no sadness and tribulation nor death, and knowing in them reasonings what will be done later, like unto wax melt amidst a fire, because this thing gave them bodies for death. Yeah, we're going to give you a body just so you can die. That seems a little sadistic. Believing that them faces will shine 7 hands more than the sun, and that them will be nice in him. Love upon the time all arose in flesh and soul, and gave them bodies for death. So I don't get what the fuck that 7 hands more than the sun means. But the Samrans and Ahuds things, the Saduquans who don't believe persons who dead rising, and the Phorisans thing quite totally sadden I, and it help I for I reasoning. We will dead tomorrow, I should say. Make we eat and drink, we will dead tomorrow. There are no nice ites, we will sight up in grave. But the Samanrans say, as we flesh will be dust, it won't arise, because she were invisible like unto wind and like unto thunder voice. Check, she are here, and because she were them that don't call an invisible, as soul won't arise if flesh dead, upon the time resurrection are done, we will believe with souls arising. Almost sounds like they're saying, if you're alive at the time of God's resurrection, you get to go to heaven, but if you're dead, then you're fucking dead, and you don't get to go to heaven. I don't know. It kind of contradicts itself. Then again, this translation, who the fuck knows? But as beasts will eat she, and as worms will eat she in the grave. We flesh are sight up alongside all, she will become dust and ashes. And those beasts who ate, she will become dust. For them have been like unto grass, and for them have become dust like unto them weren't created. And for them trace won't be found, but we flesh won't arise. And Phorisans say, we believe as for persons who dead arisen, however, him will bring an elite souls with another flesh that are in heaven, that aren't upon earth, where will demolished and rotten fleshes be found. I'm glad that ends with a question mark, because I have no idea what they're trying to say, and it seems they don't either. But the Saduceans say, after we soul proceeded from we flesh, we won't arise with persons who dead, and flesh and soul have no arisen after them dead, and after we dead, we won't arise. So, dead is dead. And because this thing, them totally error, and as them speak insult upon Jehovah Lordship, them things sadden I. As them didn't believe Jehovah who honor them have no hope for be saved. However, them have no hope for dead and arise and be saved. And if you hear any quackings, that's because Ash has decided to join us. And Fuzznut's maybe pissy and meow at him, hiss at him. That was Ash. O Ihudan, who are blind of reasoning, when thou art whom him created, bringing from not living toward living, and scored like unto split, will thou make Jehovah ignorant? Who made thee a person? Will it fail Jehovah who created thee, in him example and him appearance, for arouse all things thy flesh and thy soul? As thou won't escape from Jehovah authority, don't think a thing that are thus. Thou will arise without thou loving, For there are the hardship thou wilt receive in Sheol, where thou were seized upon the time thou dead, and it shall be judged upon thee without thou loving. Really want to change loving and all this to McLovin. For the sin found from demons that demons place in thy reasoning are worked alongside thee after thou were birthed from thy mother womb. And for she are worked abundantly upon the time thou grew up. Them place in she thy body upon the time thou dead, and she will bring hardship upon them upon the time them worked she. Like unto there are sin in them collar of reasoning, as there are persons who work sin being seized by she kindreds will present demons. All sinner persons' souls shall come from heaven edge where them are, and thy sin likewise shall introduce thee toward Gehenna, pulling and bringing thy soul from where thou art. And after thy flesh live separate from thy soul, Jehovah clarity dew shall arouse thee, being sevenfold like unto all father Adam flesh. So, looks like they're talking about zombies. I mean, if you're living separate, if the body's living separate from its soul, that's a zombie. Those who live in grave, buried alive. Thou also err in thy error, yet make it not seem for thee that thou only misled the others. Thou say, the horizon that persons who dead shall arise aren't there, that them might depart from Jehovah command and error. That hurts my brain. Him shall arouse thee, that him might give thee thy hardship, like unto thy work that thou work. Yet who shall quit thee, that thou might remain being dust? Sounds like it's saying you've got the option of being resurrected and tortured, or you can just stay dead and have no concept of existence or anything because you're dead. And you'll choose to be alive, or, resurrected and tortured, because that is so much better than non-existence. I can't imagine that. But at that time, whether wind in wind be thy nature, or if water in water be thy nature, or if earth in earth be thy nature, or if fire in fire be thy nature, it shall come. And if a soul that lodged in thee be what lived in Sheol, she shall come. And righteous one's souls that live in garden in heights shall come. But thou, Ahudin, Samarin, Foreseeing, Sidagugan, will live in Sheol up till it are judged upon thee. At that time thou wilt cite up that Jehovah shall pay thee the hardship like unto thy sin, because thou misled persons. So, it seems to be saying, if you're not doing these things that we think are right, you're going to be spending your time in being tortured until you're dead. And then you're really going to get the torture, baby. Persons who dead won't arise. As we will dead, make we eat and drink. And because thou sat in Moses' chair and misled by thy words, while thou said, persons who dead won't arise, thou wilt cite up that him shall pay thee thy hardship. So, I'm assuming that when they're talking about Moses' chair, they're referring to a priest or a rabbi. Since at that point in time there were priests and rabbis, and I don't know why Judaism switched to just calling them rabbis. That would be a thing to research, I guess. And without knowing Orit book, and when thou reached the book's word, because this thing thou erred, it would be better had thou remained without learning from thy misleading a person. It would have been better if thou didn't know the book's word when thou promulgate Jehovah kindreds in thy evil teaching and thy worthless words. So if you haven't read the Bible and you just preach the word of God as you think it is, which leads one to wonder, of course, how the fuck you could know about God or anything that would be relevant if you've not read at least part of the Bible. You're better off. Which, it's like there's a meme where it's supposedly this conversation between a missionary and a Native American, and the Native American asks the missionary, okay, so if I don't know about God and I die, I don't have to worry about going to hell. But if I know about God and I don't worship God and I die, I'm going to go to hell. Is that right? And the missionary says yes. And the Native American replies, well, then why did you tell me about it? Which, makes sense. Except, of course, the fact that that's really not what the missionaries believe. They believe that if you don't know anything at all about Jesus and you die, you'll go to hell. Which is really kind of bullshit. But then again, the whole concept of religion is bullshit. For Jehovah don't favor having sight up a face, and for him shall give the grace and glory him prepared for him friends, persons who teach goodly work, but thou have that thou might receive thy reward like unto thy work and the things that thou spoke. Now, this seems to be saying that, you preach good works, you're going to get to go to heaven. Unless you don't talk about heaven and you deny the resurrection. Seems to me that's a minor little detail that could be overlooked. I mean, if you preach the word of God and didn't mention anything about people going to heaven, and you convinced all these people not only to worship God, but to live good, decent lives, they should all get to go to heaven regardless of whether or not they believed in the resurrection. I mean, it is like nitpicky as fuck. Is the way, it reminds me of in Bill Maher's Religulous, where, he's in Israel and they're showing him all these things that the Orthodox Jews do to get around the prohibitions of doing work on the Sabbath. And he's like, don't you think God sees around all these loopholes? And they're like, no, but they're allowed, so we're cool. But there are nothing whereby thou will escape from Jehovah authority, who shall judge upon thee, and him have that him might pay thee like unto thy work, for them whom thou taught and thou together will receive a sentence. Now this almost sounds like he's saying, okay, you don't preach resurrection, but you preach the word of God? Well, guess what? You're not getting resurrected. Well, it doesn't seem all that bad to me. Know that persons who dead shall arise, and if them are persons who kept him law, them shall arise, and like unto earth send forth grass upon the time rained, as him command shall send them forth from a grave. It aren't possible for it remain demolished and rotten. Like unto moist wood drink dew, and send forth leaves upon the time, him sada she rain for earth. Like unto wheat bear forth fruit, and like unto grain produce buds. like unto it aren't possible, for she withhold that she might prevent she fruit if Jehovah loved. So if God loves you, you're going to produce fruit. This kind of puts the whole thing about Jesus getting pissy at that fig tree for not producing fruit out of season in a weird light. So God really does hate figs. And like unto it aren't possible for a daughter who conceived for close and prevent she womb upon the time labor sees she. Like unto it aren't possible for she escape without birthing. Okay. As do have a lit toward she being commanded from Jehovah, at that time she shall produce them at one time, yet after she heard Jehovah's word, a grave also likewise can't prevent the persons gathered alongside she from arising. And fleshes shall be gathered in the place where them corpses forel, and them places where souls live shall be open, and souls shall return toward the flesh where them were formerly separated. So, this sounds like bodies died, souls go somewhere, and then at the time of the resurrection, the bodies raise up, zombies, brains, and then the souls go back into the bodies, and the bodies are restored to wholeness. It sounds like reincarnation to me. And upon the time a drum were beaten, persons who dead shall quickly arise like unto an eye wink, and have arisen, them shall stand before Jehovah, and him shall give them reward like unto them hand work. At that time thou wilt sight up that thou arise with dead ones, and thou wilt marvel at all the work thou worked in this world. And upon the time thou sight up all thy sins written before thee, at that time thou wilt regret a useless regret. That makes no sense. If it's useless, why would you regret it? Thou know that thou wilt arise with dead ones, and that thou wilt receive thy hardship like unto the work that thou worked. But persons who found them reward by them goodly work shall be nice at that time. Persons who ignored while them said, persons who dead won't arise, shall be sad at that time upon the time them sight up that persons who dead arose with them evil work that don't benefit. What? Let me reparse this here if I can. Okay. If you do nice things, you're going to be raised up and you're going to look great. If you ignore the people who said the dead don't rise, you're going to be sad? Why? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to ignore the people who say that the dead don't rise. That them worked shall convict them, and them ourselves shall know that it can convict them without one living who will dispute them. Okay? I don't understand. Upon the day when judgment and mourning are done, upon the day when Jehovah shall come, upon the day when default judgment are judged, persons who forgot Jehovah's law shall stand in the place where them stand. Stand in the place where you are. Sorry. Upon the day when there shall be total darkness, and upon the day when mist are pulled, upon the day when flashes are sight up, and when lightning are heard. You don't hear lightning. And upon the day when quakes and fright and heat wave and sleet frost are made, upon the day when an evil person who worked evil work receive hardship, and upon the day when a clean person receive him reward, like unto him worked clean work, and upon the day when persons who forgot Jehovah's law receive the hardship, like unto a sinner person worked sin, them shall stand in the place where them stand. Again, stand in the place where you are. For upon the day when a master aren't more honored than him slave, and upon the time when mistress aren't more honored than she's slave. So everybody's going to be equal. Ooh. That's a bad thing, right? I mean, if you listen to Christians today, yeah, equality's a bad thing. Upon the time when the king aren't more honored than a poor one, and upon the time when a elder aren't more honored than an infant, upon the time when a father aren't more honored than him child, and upon the time when a mother aren't more honored than she child, upon the time when a wealthy one aren't more honored than a poor one, and upon the time when an arrogant one aren't more honored than a down-based one, and upon the time when the great aren't more honored than the small, she are the day when judgment are judged. For she are the day when them receive sentence and hardship. And for she are the day when all will receive hardship like unto them work sin. And reading that has really gotten me interested in what the Bible, the actual Bible, not this weird offshoot fanfic of the Ethiopian Apocrypha, has to say on the subject of equality. So naturally, I did a little Googling around, and I found a few interesting verses I'm going to share with you. Deuteronomy 10:17. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. This seems like a handy little verse to drag out in political discussions with religious types, pointing out that to be impartial is to be godlike and following the will of God. But there are more that are even juicier. Hebrews 12:14. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. Without holiness, no one will see the Lord. Sounds like that's saying you should get along with people you disagree with. Maybe be polite to them. That kind of makes the whole let's get angry and scream at people going into, say, abortion clinics ungodly and not what the Lord wants at all. But this one here is my favorite because it's very, very cutting in certain situations if dragged out. And I really think people should do it, especially since it is so close, number-wise, to a verse everybody knows. John 13:16. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Almost as if it's saying, hey, doesn't matter how powerful and important this person is, you cannot treat them different than the poorest person in your society. Ooh, is that not open for some delicious possibilities? Philippians 2:3. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. Romans 2:11. For God does not show favoritism. So if you show favoritism, you're being ungodly. Ooh, that's awkward. Malachi, which is an interesting book, 2:10. Do we not all have one Father? Did not one God create us? Why do we profane the covenant of our ancestors by being unfaithful to one another? Ooh, that's kind of awkward, isn't it? James 2:8 and 9. If you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you are doing right. But if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. Oh my. And then, of course, there's the one that gained popularity with all of Trump's mistreatment of immigrants. Leviticus 19:33 and 34. When a foreigner resides among you in your land, do not mistreat them. The foreigner residing among you must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt, and I am the Lord your God. Another juicy one. Luke 14, verses 13 to 14. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed. Although they cannot repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. Acts 10, verses 34 and 35. Then Peter began to speak. I now realize how true it is that God does not show favoritism, but accepts from every nation the one who fears him and does what is right. So, skip that last verse, but the first one, ooh, that's juicy. James 2, 1 through 4. My brothers and sisters, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ, must not show favoritism. Suppose a man comes into your meeting wearing a gold ring and fine clothes, and a poor man in filthy old clothes also comes in. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, here's a good seat for you, but say to the poor man, you stand there or sit on the floor by my feet, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? And I think I've got some more. I'll put a link to the pages where I found this, so that you can, if you want to share these verses with your religious friends, you can easily do so. Romans 2:11. For God shows no partiality. Tasty. Matthew 7:12. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them, for this is the law and the prophets. There's some tasty possibilities there. Psalm 67, verse 4. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy, for you judge the peoples with equity and guide the nations upon earth. So equity is godlike. Proverbs 20:10. Unequal weights and unequal measures are both alike an abomination to the Lord. That has some good possibilities, but also, you can get it a whole thing where they'll use it as against affirmative action. Makes it a little complicated because, the nutters will say, well, you see, this is arguing against affirmative action, but, the response to that is no, it's merely balancing the scales of by using affirmative action. Leviticus 19:15. You shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. Man, you could really spin that for communism. Or, some system of government where people are actually considered as equals. So, 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people. Yeah, not just Christians, not just the Americans, but everybody. That's kind of awkward, isn't it? Here's a nice one. It's not really about equality, but it's still a good verse. I think you'll agree. Proverbs 31:8-9. Open your mouth for the mute, for the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth, judge righteously, defend the rights of the poor and needy. 1 Corinthians 8:9. But take care that this right of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. that has some possibilities as well, I do believe. Isaiah 10, 1 through 34. Woe to those who decree iniquitous decrees, and the writers who keep writing oppression, to turn aside the needy from justice, and to rob the poor of my people of their right, that widows may be their spoil, and that they may make the fatherless their prey. What will you do on the day of punishment in the ruin that will come from afar? To whom will you flee for help? And where will you leave your wealth? Nothing remains but to crouch among the prisoners or fall among the slain. For all this, his anger has not turned away, and his hand is stretched out still. Ah, Assyria, the rod of my anger, the staff in their hands is my fury. Part of Proverbs 28:5 is really good. Evil men do not understand justice. The second half of that verse isn't good, because it says, but those who seek the Lord understand it completely. And I think we can all agree on that being a load of bullshit. Proverbs 24:17. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles. Proverbs 11:24-25. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give, and only suffers want. Whoever brings blessing will be enriched, and one who waters will himself be watered. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verses 16-17. And I charged your judges at that time, hear the cases between your brothers, and judge righteously between a man and his brother, or the alien who is with him. You shall not be partial in your judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall not be intimidated by anyone, for the judgment is God's. And the case that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. Again, possibilities. All right, that's enough. If I keep going at this, I'm going to have a shit ton of editing to do, because I have to scroll down and there's dead silence and all that shit. So I'm going to wrap this up here. As I said, you will get a news episode on Sunday. And then, with luck, it'll be Skullbeard and I tackling more of this after that.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TNTucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.